Okay. Anyway, we're now testing the base on top of the page. So we're accusing Eli and Pinchas and Chopni of being Rishayim. So we're saying they didn't mamish do Gila Arayas, but they didn't treat the women with respect, and they caused them to delay their stay there. Number one. Number two is Maila Alein Hakos. Bezayin Kachin. The Sivat says, we know when it comes to Karbon and Shlamim, the Medin meat goes to the Balabaz, the Chazay V'Shag, the breast, the Shankbon that goes to the kohenim, and then the fats go on the mizbeach. So they would go over to the people and say, "Gam betelim yaktin zechela." Before even they go ahead and roast the fats which goes on the mizbeach. Ubonana kohen v'amalisha zebech. Go to the prisoner shechus. Rabasa litzas lekohen. Give me some of the meat. Taking portions that don't belong to them and give it to me. But yikach milchabasa mevushel. They don't take you cook meat kim chai raw. The person would say, why don't you allow us to first put the fats on the mizbeach? And then the kachla kashdam nafsha. You want more flesh? We'll give you more flesh. But at least let us put the imurim on the mizbeach first. And they would say they were sent by Chofni Pinchas. Ki atotite, give it to us now. If not, I'll take it by force. But he chatas hanaoring doilam oides b'Hashem, and sin was considered a terrible sin, a terrible travesty. Kiniyah to anoshim in Hashem, because they antagonized the mincha of Hashem. They showed disrespect and disdain. So that's what Yechem and Tosha said. He was the cow. The story with the cow we said before, and that's what he said regarding Mikdash Shiloh. Now that we're talking about the destruction base of Mikdash, we'll continue. Mikdash Rishon, the very first base of Mikdash, why was that destroyed? There were three Avedas taking place. Number one is Avodah Zorah. One was Avodah Zorah. Number two was Gilui Aroyes. They were idol worshippers. Number two was a Gilui Aroyes. And number three was Shvichas Dam. They used to murder. The three most serious averas that a person has to be ready to give their lives up for was rampant and rife in those days. In the first base of it. Avodah Zorah. Sorry?
The whole thing is release the Avodim, right? Then the winds took it back again. So that's not
trouble thing. Talking about the three most serious averas that they were was rife. So number one. Then the pasuk Shai is saying the bed was too short from what it got rolling up. My kotzer hamat was there. What's he trying to say? That the bed was too short from rolling up. We're going to play on words. Kotzer matzah said that the base of Mikdash. What happens? Menashe put Avodah Zorah in the base of Mikdash. So his grandfather Shai was saying kotzer matzah said mishtader all of the word mishtader is the word shtei reim. You can't have two different leaders at the same time. Avodah Zorah and the Eibishter. So the Eibishter decided to leave. That's one way of living shach. Then the pasuk continues about Masech and the cover. Zorah was too narrow. His is from gathering together. We're still referring to the Avodah Zorah in the base of Midrash, but Rabbi Yonasan came to this pasuk. Bochi would cry. Omar, he said, "Man de Kosebei." When we describe the Eibishter, it says Kohen is Kaned Mehayam, that he was able to gather the entire sea into a barrel. So then this is the place here, this cover. Zorah became too narrow for him. The Abishah said it's too narrow for me to be there when the Avodah Zorah is there. In other words, Avodah Zorah repelled the Abishah. Gilu Aroyes. Where do you find Gilu Aroyes? Let's see what it says. Yes, exactly. That's what it's from. Zorah means ain't, narrow. It's not a very happy relationship. One is there, the other one leaves. The Chsiv says, it says in the pasuk, again, Shai is saying, Yan sins that they walked around the Bnei Tzim, walked around tall to attract attention. But Jalach and the two is going, they walked around with their necks outstretched. Isn't that tribe in Africa somewhere where they put these things around the neck to lift their head? That's what they're called. And they're lusting eyes, they're looking and staring at the Bochrim, as if they were floating, going, and with their feet, literally means getting angry. So we're teaching as follows. Yan sins, what do you mean that they elevate themselves, made this fall? They used to walk right next to girls that were short, so they would stand out. Or other shayim say they walked between two girls that were short, so they stood out in the middle. So everybody noticed that. Otherwise, if everybody be walking between two people, you wouldn't notice one from another. But and they walked around with the next outstretched. They were walking with the upright. What do you mean? They either they were gazing or having malian and they put a lot of makeup on their face again, so they should attract attention. And a holler with top of and a holler with top of what do you mean? They're like floating in the air. Whenever they saw Bachrin, they would walk very slowly. They would put their toes next to the heel. Why? So they can walk very slowly and pause, and as if they're floating in the air. So people should notice them. What does that mean? They would bring these different spices, and myrrh and balsam. Place them on their shoes. Whenever saw bachrim, they would kick the sand or something. And some of the perfume would land on them. And they would then enter the Yitzhara, enter these bachrim, like poison, like a snake, like poisonous snake. In other words, they would entice these bachrim and basically provoke them. So we thought that we were bad today. Same issues in those days as well.
Sounds like a lot of work.
Yeah, well. Shvichas damim, where do you find that murder was rife? See, it says regarding Acha, Gamdam Noki Shavar, Menashe, sorry, Gamdam Noki Shavar, Menashe Habemoit, that he killed a lot of innocent blood. Some say it's referring to actually Yeshaya. He killed his own grandfather. In the base of me, that's called Habemoit because Yeshaya represented Klal Yisrael. It filled Yerushalayim from one end to the other end. That's the first base of English. The second base of English, they were sitting and learning Torah and mitzvahs of Gilul Chasadim. So they did all of these good things. So why was it Nechri? Very hard to understand. We learned in Merksubas and other places that 40 years before the base of English was destroyed, they already shut down the Sanhedrin because there were so many murders taking place. They were called the Sanhedrin of they shut it down. 40 years when they moved before, but 40 years before they shut down all the Ritzicha, capital punishments, because murder was rife and they couldn't do anything. So what's the Gemara asking here? Why 40 years not long enough for murder that you should be a cause? We just said a minute ago you had 3 Avedas. Avodas don't know that. But anyway, it seems that one of the 3 Avedas is not enough. They had to have all 3 Avedas before they deserved to destroy the base of English, not one. And they learned Torah and they did mitzvahs Angel Chasadim from the second base of English. Remember, the last 100 years was Hillel and Shammai and all these Tanaim. So his Torah was becoming a very, big Makom Torah. The problem was, because Shahai Sabah Sinas Chinam. The problem was Sinas Chinam. Interesting, if you ask anybody where does it say that the second base is Chinam, everyone always saying the Gemara Git story, Kamsa by Kamsa and all that. It's the Gemara here, Testament base in Yoma that it says Sinas Chinam. Sinas Chinam is as bad as the 3 Avedas put together. They were Sinas Shavart.
Stark example.
Yeah, so why isn't more than over there should say, and that is why they destroy because Sinas Chinam. There we have the story and the whole story, but the I guess the reason why is not brought down there at all. I always wondered why the Gemara doesn't bring it there. But that you have to guess. Just say that this is the reason why it got destroyed.
You want to speak,
but here we dropped already the kite. Okay. Okay. Where are we? Okay. Says the Gemara now further. There's a big machlekes whether the next few lines belong here or later on. Let's say it belongs here. The Shoyim Hayu, the people of the first base minute, Shoyim Elishatolu B'Chayim B'Kadosh Baruch Hu, because of that ultimately they still had B'Tochen Hashem. Now this is hard to understand. Try to reconcile this. They were Oiv Avodah Zorah and they had B'Tochen Hashem. The second base of Migdash, they were not Oiv Avodah Zorah. In fact, we got rid of the Yitzhak Avodah Zorah. We had Sanhedrin. There they were. We'll have later. They didn't have B'Toch. They had no Avodah Zarah, but no B'Toch. But we had Avodah Zarah, as if to say they were very religious people, and they sort of believed in both. It's more like shittu. They believe in the Eibush because they believe in Hashem, B'tachim Hashem, and yet they believed in Avodah Zarah. Somehow or another, they were able to. Menashe put the Avodah Zarah in the Beis Hamikdash, but he still believed in the Beis Hamikdash. Somehow or another, they would reconcile with themselves the Avodah Zarah and B'tachim Hashem. And what do we see the outcome was? That's referring to the Beis Hamikdash, the first word. It says in the pasuk. It says the leaders, they took bribes and they judged. The Kohanim and the Kohanim, they got paid for what they had when they gave lectures. Then the about Kesev Yikasumu, they did all the kishuf. As if they did kishuf, all the money. But Hashem Yishanu Lemer, they still relied on Hashem and said, Haloya Hashem B'Kibenu, the Eibush is amongst us. Lo Yisabo Leinu. Somehow or another, they were reconciled. The Eibush is still with us, and nothing bad is going to happen to us. That's the only way to really understand this Gemara here. Therefore, they had three different things, punishments. Connected Gimel Avedas should be other, three Avedas in the hand. Now, there's a machlekes in the portion. Which three Avedas we're talking about? Are we talking about the three Avedas of Avodah Zarah, Gil Rosh Chadamim, or we're talking about the three Avedas that the leaders did? And the machlekes is, what's worse, when the entire community is bad or when the leadership is bad? They were both bad. The leaders were all corrupt, and the populace committed avedas. So the question is, which is the sibum, which is the mesubim? So we actually had more erchel and machlekes is the pnei adoik. Are the people like the leaders, or the leaders like the people? And that's the two pshatim here in the Gemara. If you learn that the leaders are the one who have to take full responsibility, and the three avedas we're talking about is the corruption of the judges, the kohanim, and the neviim. But if we learn that it's the people that are the main culprit, and the leaders are only a reflection of the people, then it's the three avedas are the other one. Okay, that's how you explain the machlekes and the question. Now, what are the three punishments? What are the three punishments? It says, Lochen, therefore, the glauchen because of you. First of all, tzia and sad of the chodesh. First of all, tzia and Yerushalayim be like a field that totally plowed through. Yerushalayim, ayin the Yerushalayim will become waste, and Bahar Abayis and the Temple Mount will be just another mountain of a forest, nothing there. With Migdash Rishon for the Gemara, there was no sin as chinim. There was no people hate for no reason. But see, it says in the pasuk, scream and cry, people, because this will be amongst your nation, that amongst all the leaders, that Megoire El Chereb, they're living to the sword. Oyus Ami will enter my people, and Lochen, therefore, smack yourself against the fire. When you're crying, you keep on smacking yourself. Things are terrible. What's it referring to? We're living together. We're best of friends. We sit praying together, and yet we're yet stabbing each other, not behind each other's back. It's directly with our sharp tongues, our acerbic tongues. So you see, there was a sin as chinim, then just as bad in the first place. So why you say, Gemara says, the leadership there had sin as chinim, but the average person didn't. In the second base of English, it was the first. How do you know it was the leaders? But the pasuk says, "Zaak the ben Adam, go ahead and scream and cry. People of the Son of Man, this took place amongst my people." And the next words are, amongst the Nesim of the Eden, the Nesim that were the culprits. They were the ones who had this animosity and acrimony to each other. We would have thought that everybody's guilty. The pasuk says, Gemara here brings down the pasuk. They say the Shoinim is Galabainam. The first they said Mikdash, we know exactly what their sin was, and it's Gala Kitzim. We know exactly how long their Gala the punishment is, 70 years in bubble. When it comes to second base Mikdash, the sin actually hasn't been revealed, because in other words, Rashi learns that they were Rishayim, but discreetly. That means even the sin is chilim, maybe it's not so open. The first base of Mikdash also they directly stab each other. Second base of Mikdash, they all talk to friends about other people, but they didn't directly talk to each other, or they did other sins but discreetly. But it's Gala Kitzah. Therefore, we still don't know yet how long the Ketz will be until Mashiach comes. Rabbi Yechon said, interesting argument here. Rabbi Yechon said, Amo, we actually had this already in a few places, an idea. We're comparing the people's name in Rishayim Kamalachim on the Pnei Adam, Rishayim Adam on the Kavachamor. We had that in Shkolim recently. We also had in Psachim. So we said over here.
the whole thing when it comes to the cancer. Because the Rama Rabbi Yochanan, Asher, and the Fachet Tommy.
Yeah, Asher,
so that's the whole subject of the film.
Yeah, exactly. So Tzipoino should have shown the nails. The nails are the most chitzonic part of your body. You cut it off, it's not pretty part. And yet the nails of the nose, the lowest level of people, Amol, is better than Kriyus Shalacharein. It's better than the stomach, which is a very important part, a vital part of a person's vital organ, than today. No, is the best. Our cream is not even equal to their waists. So that's what Rabbi Yechon said. Amol, you mean these people? Oh, Amol. He says, we're better off today. You know why? Now, Rashloki doesn't say because we're smarter or we're more knowledgeable. But he says, even though that today we're in Golus, we have Mesiras Nefesh. And so you think about it, not really arguing. Rabbi Yechon is honing in on the fact of scholarship, and the Shlokish is talking about Mesiras Nefesh. That in Golus we have Mesiras Nefesh. In time who had Mesiras Nefesh. Then it was easy. There's no Mesiras Nefesh. Today I know they have Mesiras Nefesh. Says the Gemara. On Malay, so Rabbi Yechon disagreed. He said, "Bida techiyah the Beis Mikdash proves to you. Shechazar l'shayim was rebuilt after the first time. V'loy chazar l'achreim didn't come back for the second time. That means the sins of the second time is much worse than the first time. That means they're on a low level. But again, it doesn't prove anything. Rabbi Yechon, they're not arguing. They're honing on two different parts, two different aspects. Shaul was a similar conversation. The shayim who's greater? Look at the Beis Mikdash. Look with your eyes in the Beis Mikdash. You never say, you know what the proof is? The Beis Mikdash. What's the machlekes? The Shagadai explained beautifully. That Eidechem Bida means the testimony of the Bida is, look, the second Beis Mikdash was built after the first. That means, and we have no third Beis Mikdash yet after the second, which means the first Beis Mikdash was not as bad as the second. That's Eidechem, the testimony. The first one is Einechem Yisrael. The destruction of the first Beis Mikdash was the roof was taken off, but the walls and everything else, the structure was still there. The second Beis Mikdash we say Ha'oimim Oro Adi Yisrael, but even though it's actually referring to the first Beis, the capital of the first Beis Mikdash says that Shagas Ayah is talking about the second one. That the second one is they went and uprooted the very foundation. There was nothing left at all. Rabbi Akiva went there on the mountain. There was nothing left there at all. And therefore, he says the eyes see. See the Chodesh, yeah.
That's the first one.
Yeah, exactly. But that's what Shagas Ayah says is the shot in that Oro talking about future. And then seeing Sadat the Chodesh must be either the roofs are taken off and that's enough to call it Sadat the Chodesh, or talking about the next later on. I don't know how you learn further. The Shloki, Havisach, the Yari Shloki, just swim in the garden. In Egypt,
No, in the Beis Mikdash, they dug out to increase the mosque and all that more. So they took out a whole lot of rubble, trucks full of rubble, and they dumped it somewhere. And people are now going, if you want to go for an archaeological excursion, you can go there and you can find all sorts of things, little bits and pieces from the Beis Mikdash.
The great governor allowed them to do this.
It's a built up mountain.
Yeah, of course, because it says it's layers by layers by layers.
Once they start digging under, there's a lot of stuff.
Yeah, you go like they allow them to dig. I thought it would be sacred.
It's the whole issue with the wax, that you gave them certain rights, and when Moshe Dayan gave them rights to minister and all that. So
how it goes, always look to high.
You got to pick your fights.
Anyway, the Shlokish was swimming in the yard, and this is the story of we had a Matzia. How the Shlokish, jumped in the water to catch up Rabbi Yechon and wanted to kill him. So he was obviously a very good swimmer. So he was going to swim in the garden. Also, Rabbi Baba Chana.
No, he jumped
in the water and he said to Rabbi Yechon, said to him, he's a strong swimmer. If you decide to use your energy for learning, I'll let you marry my sister. Anyway. Rabbi Baba Chana constantly says things named Rabbi Yechon. So obviously, he lived in Israel for a long time, but originally he started out in Babel. So he came back to Babel. He was in so full. We just had before. I'm Rabbi Yechon, and he was there for a long time. Rabbi Yechon. Yod le Yoda. So Rabbi Baba Chana stretched out his hand to support Reish Lakish. Amalei Lakish said to him, "That's very nice." Elokos agilchu, the Abish hate you guys, hate you Babylonians. Even though you may not aliyah, it doesn't matter. Once you're in a Babylonian, you're always Babylonian. Where do we see the Siva? It says in Pasuk, if you will be like a wall, Tiras Kesef will be like a wall of silver. We actually have in the Gemara in Ksubas, the very end, the expression is, Im Yalu Kachim, if you all go together to Israel like a wall, like a force. Ezra was very upset. He only had like 40,000 plus people that joined him. Very few joined him. We had in my shul, we had a guy from a place called Jerba, which is an island off Tunisia, which they went there the first base of Mikdash, Kohanim, and they never left. And Ezra sent them a letter asking, we want you guys to come because we need Kohanim, authentic Kohanim, because they continued being Kohanim, even during the 70 of the bubble, come and help us out. And they refused. So he cursed them. Gave him a curse. That's a bubble. That's a bubble. This is in Europe and other places as well. There were a lot of people who went to other countries, Spain, Germany, they never came back.
That's where the MSUS comes from Because they stayed there and they sit and they're talking, so they sit this tefillah to show that we're still connected.
Actually, the Shibbolei Alekid writes that the Emes V'Yatziv comes from David HaMelech made a takana that you should make 100 brachas a day. So the Chachamim sent them a letter. Emes V'Yatziv Enocha, what did you say? There are 15 vavs there. Each vav is 6. 15 vavs is 90. Then Hadavar has that 2 hays of 100. And they're saying that the Yatziv Enocha, this takana of 100 brachas is the most beautiful takana you can make when it stops the Magefa. And the Chachamim, the Sanhedrin, actually they liked it so much they decided to put it to Krishma. Because it has nothing to do with Krishma. It's to do with 100 brachas a day. That's the Shibbolei Alekid writes. The name of his brother, Ben Yamin. Oh, let's continue. This is what the Shlach is telling me. Im Dalas, if door, not so it'll be what? It's like a door. If you come like a door, it'll be only like a cedar board. If you guys come together with a force, Ezra, you came up together with Ezra, then you'll be like silver. You'll never rot. You went up like doors, you'll be like a cedar tree. I want that eventually it rots. My eres, what do you mean in cedar tree? Amar Ula, sesam good. Some kind of word comes sesam good that it works its way through, it eats its way through. My sesam good, what do you mean sesam good? Sesam good means that it eats its way through, but there's still something left. It makes it mean it was totally raised to the ground. And the Yisraelis were taken away. Amar Abba Baska, you know what? Something did remain behind. Even though we lost Ruch and everything else, the main behind was a Baska, which is a lower level of the Ruch HaKodesh. The time we learned, the last of him died. Chag is Chayim Alacha, in the start of Ruch HaKodesh, we saw Ruch HaKodesh stop. But dying in the Baska, the students of Baska. Says the Gemara, Rish Lakish, Rish Lakish would never talk to anybody in public. Umar Rabbi Lazar, Madach Rabbi Lazar, the Mora Arisolav. Madach Rabbi Lazar was considered the master of Eretz Yisrael. We hang more neither that he was an expert in all these laws. We'll have a Mishra, they would never talk to him in public because why not? The man, the Mishra Lakish, anybody spoke to Shlokish. Shlokish is a very big captain. If anybody spoke to him, we had Merson Head in the second page that he showed he was a captain. Everybody would trust him. If Shlokish spoke to you in public, that means you're an honest person. They would give you, lend you money without any security or anything else. And then ultimately, if it didn't work out, they would have time to say Shlokish. So you decided he talked to nobody in public. But how did Rabbi was such a big rav? Yet for Shlokish wouldn't talk to him in public. We talked to him to Rabbi Chana. That there's another person there as well. And this other person, it wasn't only what do you call it, Rabbi Bachana. It was together with Zidi, and Zidi was an unbelievable person. We had before, he was an Ish Emes and so on. Or we'll have later. Or Rabbi Lazar was with Rabbi Bachana. That's why he spoke to him. That's not why the Eberster was upset with Bubble. That's not why the base of English, didn't last or whatever it is. It wasn't as holy because the Babylonians didn't show up. And that's not why. Even if everybody would have joined Ezra and gone to the Surah, they should have rested. If it says, Yafta Lakim Yefes, the Abishter will be nice and beautiful for Yefes, but Yashkin Roli Shem, where would they wish to rest? Only in Oli Shem. I forgot the Yafta Yefes, even though that Yefes built the second base of Megiddo, the Persian, the Kairos and Darius, they're the ones who allowed the Kairos and the others, they're the ones who allowed the base to be built and they helped it out and so on and so forth. There's no Aram there. The Shekhinah did not rest only by Shem. Now we actually had in Mar Shkolim, but from this very possible, we need something totally different. We learned that the Greek language was in the base of Mikdash because Yafta Lakim Leyefes, we said that's why things were written in Greek alpha, beta, gamma on the boxes because we use that plus with that. So obviously argues with this Gemara here who says that it's referring to the building of the base of Mikdash. Says the Gemara, what does Persians have to do with Yefes? Gemara says yes, it does. See, but it says in Pasuk, Bnei Yefes, who the children of Yefes, going with the Mogul, the Modeh, the Yovan, the Tuva, Mesha, the Tilis. These are the people. Goyim is a Gemamia. Some say it's Germany. The Vilna Goyim says it's Germany, and he argues that Germany's been around for a very long time, and they were always the Shoyim, and so on. The Baal Shem Tov said that one of the master come out and go to Germany. The Baal Shem Tov says it's a land that doesn't smell from any kedusha. There's no kedusha left in that land. Mogog is a Kandia. Mogog is a Kandia. I don't know where all these places are, but they're all obviously in the Middle East, around Turkey, Afghanistan, Iraq.
About Candia.
It's Candia, a place called Candia.
Identified by some of the Greek islands of Crete in the Mediterranean.
Yeah, and others say it is.
Even though it's called Candia.
Oh, it's called Candia, okay. Modai zu Magdulia. Yavon Kemashmai, one of the Greece, and Tuval is a base of Nike, that's the place there, and Mesh is a Musia. Musia Tilis, what's Tilis? Pliba, there's an argument that Samayraban, Amirad, Simaraban, Khadamazu, base Taraki, a place called base Taraki, we had no idea this place around, Khadamazu Poras. That is Poras. Tirazu Poras. So we see that Persia is, according to Rabbi Yosef, is Tiras, and according to one of them, and therefore the Persians, Karya, Kadesh, and the Yavish are from Yefes, and they built the second base of Midrash, and Yaf is beautiful, but the Abish is only going to rest in all the shame. So now we're talking about this place. More says further, the children of Cush were Savta, Rama, where are these places? Sakistan is Gliosa, the inner city, Sakison, but he also was the outer city. In these two cities, Parsi was 100 Parsi, 400 mil. But the cave for the circumference was Alpha Parsi, 4,000 mil. The beginning of his reign by Nimrod was Babel. He reigned over Babel and Ered, Abed, Chalna. Babel, Kamashma, he reigned over Babel. Ered, Urich is a place called Urich. There's a place called Bash, and wherever that is, and Kalna is a Neufer. Ninfe, Mina Oret, it says there that Ashur decided to leave the land, and he built Ninve. So Mina Oret, that's right, yes. Mina Oret, he Yotza Ashur left. Ashur is a Silik. Asher, this is Silig, a place called Silig. Even as they built Nineveh, there's a chayvus in the streets of the city. There's Kalach, Nineveh, Kamashmai, place called Nineveh. Rechayvus ir Zuparas, the mission. Rechayvus, that's part of the mission. That's the place called there. And Kalach Zuparas, the Bursa. Place called Parah, the Bursa. There's Rasan, and Rasan is a city by Nineveh, ben Kalach. Here, Irak Doila, that's a large city. What's it referring to? Rasan ze Aktisra, he Irak Doila. This is the large city. And any day, it says a pasuk that's a large city. It says we're not sure. It says a chayvus and so on and so forth. Which is the large city? Any day in Nineveh Agdoila, im Rasan ir Agdoila. Which is the large city? Nineveh or Rasan, which is the beginning of the psukim there. Kushu Aime Nineveh Hoyse ir Agdoila Lakim. That means a large city. To the Abish Mahalach Shlosh Yamin took 3 days to come from one to the other city. Havi Aime Nineveh ir Agdoila. The Nineveh was the large city. Okay, we'll stop over here and we'll continue tomorrow.